in this type of training, you're doing your own soul retrieval. We are just guiding you to know how to do it, right? So the shaman is picking up the pieces related to the problem that you brought them. They're not going to pick up a million pieces for you, by the way. If something happened and you got sick and this happened and this happened and they're doing the soul retrieval, they're going specifically to that where you left that soul. And we do the same thing, because when you have your client show up, we are interviewing the client to know what's happening, right? I feel really anxious all the time, blah, 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 blah. And you go to the first time of the anxiety and before that, and before that. So you're looking also for the same link to get to the root of that experience, making sure that I am explaining myself properly. You have a client that showed up with depression. Depression is repressing emotion. So what is the emotion that needs to be worked on? And through the process of the interview, you're going to find that out. So once you have that core emotion, you follow that emotion back. And sometimes you have to do that for 10, 20 different sessions, depending on how severe the depression is, right? So we're basically guiding the client to go from here to here. The shaman is going to go and pick up one. And I have clients that come and do 30, 40, 50 ceremonies, and they go to Peru, they spend a month, and they still have the same issue, and they might be doing integration with me or something like that. And when we're doing the sessions, they're like, I didn't see that coming. Because in the medicine realm, you get in the cheat sheets to work. A lot of people don't do the integration past the ceremonies because they think that was it. But once you really start taking that seriously, you are taking that ceremony experience and doing a session to go with that ceremony, or integration to go with that ceremony, and you're going to get 10 times more out of every ceremony, because you're really seeing what you couldn't see before. Because in ceremony, just like in the dream, sometimes you see black and just black and specific thing, like if you're seeing through, you know what I'm talking about? Like if you're seeing through a lens or something, you're doing this. But when you're doing the therapy, you're going to be able to span that view of what that means for you. And that's what we're going to do here. So whenever we do medicine, or even in the dreams, we're going to have a lot of the shadow pieces come up. I'm not talking about entity attachments in this case. I'm talking about shadow experiences. You create a specific belief based on what happened to you in that moment of the trauma. That belief becomes a shadow. So, but not only that, if it was intense, the shadow that created not only is amplified by potentially an entity attachment, because your piece of a fragment of your soul came out and you didn't go back in, because it says, I'm not going to be in this family. This sucks. So now you have this empty hole with a faulty belief and something attached to that. So that's why sometimes working on releasing the entity attachments makes it easy for you to work on the healing of the inner child, because now you don't have all of that extra shadow, extra debris blocking you from doing the work that you need to do. So the shadow work becomes very important. So the shadow is not necessarily an entity, it's an energy of the belief that you created. So we have all of these, all of us, we have all of these shadows that are part of our faulty beliefs. The things that we believe in the moment in order to survive, or to continue to be okay, or to depart the situation because it's too painful. For whatever reason it is, we know that we have these shadows. And then a lot of us will also find the energy attachments. If the person has a lot of trauma, most likely they're also going to have the energy attachments. And later on, we're also going to see that if the person has a lot of traumas, they can also be compromised with ET attachments, which I don't even want to say yet because I don't want to freak you out, but don't be afraid. It's okay. So once we work on the shadow, we help the client come out of that experience and make a new belief that is in alignment with who they want to be. So there are different steps to do this, and it's very easy. I just want everybody to be on the same page here so that, you know, we know what we're doing. So going back to the dreams, we want to also understand the pineal gland. So when we understand the pineal gland, we're going to, everybody knows what the pineal gland is, right? So where in awaken, when you dream and you're going through awakening, you tap into those realms a lot of the time, which is why a lot of people have these awesome dreams and they're like, oh my God. And sometimes you have those dreams and you don't want to wake up because it's like, this is the real thing. I mean, I'm living in a dream in that reality. And it really becomes so amazing that it can also create a lot of dissociation because it's easier to get pulled into that beautiful reality if you go to the higher planes where everything is magical, everything, oh my God. And you don't want to be here. So that also creates a little bit of dissociation if you're not careful, which is why it's important for us to do the work for our own development, to do the work and know that we still have to be in this reality, because sometimes it does get really easy for us to just want to always be meditating and become addicted. I became addicted to meditation because sometimes I was meditating for 3-4 hours a day before going to bed because I wanted to experience what I felt like. And I became really good at meditating because I had dissociation issues. So it was so easy for me to dissociate and go into that reality very, very quickly. So it's a good thing, but it can also be dangerous. So the pineal gland, when we're dreaming, we know that this pineal gland is activated, stimulated by light. So when we have this stimulation by light, it can activate it or repress it. So when we are getting that pineal gland activated, we also have the CSF fluid. The fluid with the combination of the pineal gland can take you into a trance in your dream state. So when you go from a dream to a trance, your pineal gland becomes extremely activated so that you can experience the other levels of your consciousness, which is your auric field. And when you experience those levels of your consciousness, you are also activating DNA codes within you. So part of the work that we do with the dream regression is to help the client understand what are the codes that they're activating, because the pineal gland is sending information to the rest of the body through the energy, because everything is electromagnetic. So you're sending information to the rest of the body and it's letting the DNA know this is how you need to read the DNA now. It's magical. Really is beautiful. If you want to go on YouTube this week and look up what's his name, Mauro Zapatera, he is a doctor that has done a lot of work on the pineal gland. And what they realize is that the pineal gland is the I am present. So when you have the soul sits in the pineal gland, so the CSF fluid is traveling and it goes through the root all the way up to the brain, and it travels in the brain, goes back down, and it does that 3-4 times a day. So you have naturally the ability to create DMT in your body when you're doing the right things at the right time. And the DMT basically is a lot of energy moving so that then you can go into a trance. So if the CSF fluids goes 3-4 times and you naturally can create DMT, when you are going through spiritual awakening and you're dreaming, you can go into a trance. And those trance experiences, sometimes people will think that is an outside energy coming in to disturb them, whether it is an energy like a demon or something like that, or ghost, or even ET. Sometimes people think, I saw this light and it has to be an ET or something like that. And it doesn't have to be, because it depends on what's happening at that moment. When the CSF fluid is going through, you can, if you're really attuned with your body, you're going to be able to hear the fluid. Has anyone here heard your fluid, your CFS fluid going through your brain? Nobody? You can feel that, you can hear that when you start paying attention to it. And when you hear that, new neurons are being formed in your brain. The damaged neurons that were damaged due to the trauma in childhood and so on, teenage years, are being rebuilt. So it becomes very electrical, like an electrical storm up there. And it's like, and you're going into major, especially if this happens when you're in a very deep REM cycle. So you are having many different things that are taking you into a trance. And when you get pulled out from the trance because you get afraid because of your natural fears, you're going to think, oh, I was being attacked because I couldn't move. And your body goes into paralysis. Some people think it had to be something that was trying to attack me because I got so afraid and I couldn't move, right? So they're thinking if I couldn't have access to my body, it's because something was outside of me was attacking me. But it is your own fears most of the time that are attacking you in that experience, because you're pulling yourself too fast and your body's not ready to respond yet. So you're left being conscious, but you don't have access to your muscles and stuff like that. So it becomes very interesting because you hear online that a lot of people are talking about, like, if you see lights in your room, if you see DNA codes or the matrix code, that means like you were taken by ETs or something. It's not necessarily that, is what I'm trying to say to you. So we have to just be conscious of that. So when you have those people that are coming for the sessions, you don't naturally go into hunting for the ET implants and the adoptions, you know what I'm talking about. So we have the left and the right brain hemisphere, and the pineal gland is sitting right in the center. It doesn't have a double like the other parts of the body, and it is a transducer. It is going to take the energy from the body. When you feel that energy in the root chakra coming up, all of that is energy moving really fast, and it's moving. When it gets to the top of the brain and it sends that energy to the top of the brain, the pineal gland is going to send that signal like an antenna, and you jump from this reality to the other realities. And it becomes really cool because you're expanding your filter of consciousness in that moment. You're no longer the same person that you were before you went to sleep when that happens. Something is happening within your body that is sending new information to your body. And our job is going to be to find out what that is, help the client understand better what that is. So this antenna is generating electrical discharge. And with that, when you're dreaming, and if you really want to become good at it, when you're in your REM sleep and your eyes are moving really fast around 3-4 in the morning, and you know that that's the time for you meditate in that moment and you're going to go into full trance. So the key is not to be afraid of what could happen, because a lot of us are going to be afraid of what could happen. Somebody could take me. So 3-4 in the morning is the best time, even 5-6 in the morning, depending on like you and your body. But normally when you're in REM, the deepest 90 minutes there, you're going to be able to take really good advantage of it. So when we have those moments of the pineal gland activation and that information is coming down to the rest of the body, we're basically the DNA is being read differently. And if you guys know, they call it epigenetics, and it's a science that it shows that the genes are holding information from previous generation. So when we know, this is not even just in spiritism, right, anymore. Like back in the days, it was like, oh, these people are crazy, they think that this can be passed down, but now they know. So scientifically proven that the genes are holding past traumas from previous generation. So what we're telling the DNA when we go into trance and we activate the pineal gland is, listen, you're going to read differently because you've been reading wrong the DNA codes. So when you're going through spiritual awakening, you're learning, your DNA is learning to read differently the sequence of that DNA that is encoded there. Why this is important though is because we know that we are picking up so much information from past lives, from our ancestors, from childhood, and we're like, what the heck? Like, this is a lot, right? To really understand. And why do we do this? Why do we keep repeating the same thing? Why can we not understand? And it's almost like one day you wake up and you realize, I really need help because something is wrong here, right? Which is eventually people find therapy and so on. So, but what I find interesting is that the brain is doing we have this brain, we have this little brain, and the brain is doing its work. It's a masterpiece, right? But when we are neglected, when we go through something traumatic, different regions of the brain, they go offline. So it's not even like we want to, it's just that it happens. And it can be very disturbing sometimes because you're like, how was I going to get better if I didn't, and you're looking at someone and you might be saying to your sister, your brother, or your partner, why can't you just get it? But there are pieces of their brain that are completely offline. We know that when we're doing these healing sessions, the neurons are going to read themselves differently. We're going to be able to have logical information coming through the brain, through the frontal, and it's going to help us make sense out of things that we couldn't before. And it is because of the different sessions that these people will be doing with you that is going to help them, the repressed emotions and things that they couldn't deal with when they work with that in your sessions. And a lot of the time they're going to find those repressed emotions, especially in the dream, because it is through the dream state that the brain says, okay, some things go offline, some things come online, and then the repressed emotions come up, except that they're not going to look the way that we normally see them. So it's going to put a picture and an image to go along with that emotion. And sometimes it's going to project it into a third person. So you think, oh, that's not me. But we need to know that it always comes back to us. So whether it is a projection or something that is happening that looks like a different life, or stick figures or whatever it is, we always have to come back to ourselves because it's going to be always about ourselves. So when we are going through that experience and asking the client about the dreams or the nightmares or the trance experience, we have to pay extra attention to the things that are not being said. And the reason why this is also important is because a lot of the people are they have repressed those emotions to survive. So the emotions that are being repressed are not going to come out and be like, this is what happened to you when you were 3. They're going to come out in a way that we are going to have to help the client make sense out of that by doing the sessions, right? So that fun sessions are going to be when it's something related to spiritual, like mystical and stuff like that. But in the dreams, we're going to find that it is the door to the unconscious. And in there, we're going to find the whole universe that the client isn't even aware of. So our job is to help them make sense of that universe. There was a what is the name of this doctor? He has a weird accent. What is the name of that doctor? He was in one of the conferences that I took. He was talking about how they did a research and they found that out of 2,000 people, they realize that when people are traumatized, only what they feel is real. And I found that to be interesting because we're talking about this technique is really about what is the person feeling even in the dream state, because that's going to give us the key to where they need to go, whether it is in this life or in another experience that they might not be comfortable with, but it starts with a dream. So I'm trying to remember the name of that guy. Bone something, Beso something.
Vanderkolk.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyways, he was talking about how whatever they feel is the reality. That's and the way that the hippocampus and everything else in the brain, the amygdala and everything is going to believe that reality, so that we respond and act based on that reality, even if it's a faulty belief that we created due to a trauma in childhood. So